Hi, Damini. Thank you so much for joining us from Singapore. This is for everyone. We have a rock star from NTU. She's joining us from Singapore. She finished NTU in 2018, and she was an applicant who came from the background, human resources background. And she said that, and I have a lot of questions for you, okay? When I worked with you, when you and I started creating goals, you are the one who's now living the depth of those goals, or maybe you change your goals, or maybe you discovered a lot of different things in life that I will learn from. I learn a lot from that conversation. And I think a lot of people who are keen on following you, Namini, they will also learn from you.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
So, do you want to give a quick 30 to 40 seconds background about what do you do right now? What organization do you work for everyone?
Sure, definitely. Firstly, thank you for having me, Jatin. It's amazing to speak with you after so many years and have the same level of energy. Definitely, nobody can match that. But yeah, I'm currently working as a regional HR business partner for Asia Pacific and Middle East for a company called Grifols. It's a Spanish company. We are into plasma solutions. So we work with blood plasma and medical devices. It's a very niche healthcare company, and we are majorly targeting US and Europe. Those are our biggest markets. And we also have a couple of markets in Asia itself, which is about 12 to 13 countries, which I cater to for the region. And that's end-to-end HR strategy, all the way from, talent acquisition, recruitment, onboarding, compensation, performance management, employee engagement, and crisis management. What we are doing right now in this pandemic, it's turned out to be a very different, game changer for HR as well. So all these topics we manage together with our businesses that are based out of Asia Pacific and our center of expertise, which is in Spain. So we sort of implement and localize the strategies that we have, globally for our Asian markets. So this is a little bit of what I am doing today. And if I were to go, 4 years ago, I come from a HR consulting background, but I was majorly into talent analytics and sort of have evolved, through my MBA journey to come here, and I'm still evolving, definitely. Yeah.
Same here. I've been an admission consultant for very long, and I'm still evolving and learning a lot of things. I know. Welcome to the lifelong journey of learning.
Definitely.
The first question for you is, so a lot of people think that, so in India, when you see MBA courses, you will see MBA in finance or MBA in marketing or MBA in HR, right? But the international schools, the international programs that you went to NTU, there is no separate distinction. It's an MBA. You come from a human resources background and you're doing an MBA. Now, how do you think that general management MBA impacted your capability as a human resource leader to do what you're doing right now? And I think this will also help a lot of HR professionals who maybe want to explore what you're doing right now, Damini.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a very good question. Why? Because when you come from HR or say any function, before MBA, at least in the first initial few years of your career, you're doing a job at a very operational level, and that's how it should be. That's how you start, right? You start learning from the base. But you have this limited direction that you work in because you are just into the execution part of it. Yes, you have some visibility of how the leadership works. If you are working in like very big multinational companies, there's only like limited view of how things are discussed at the top. And this is very limited. When you go for an MBA, especially the global MBA that I was a part of, it opens up your horizons. It gives you a bigger picture, in the sense that you have this holistic learning of, okay, that's how marketing works, or that's how operations work, or that's how finance works, and it all comes together at the top, and this is how a decision is made and executed through different layers to the last person. That lens of how a marketing person approaches a challenge, or how, a commercial person goes out on the field and sells is very important for an HR perspective. The kind of role that I'm currently in, it's called a business partner role. How do I partner with businesses? If I actually cannot put on their lens, I have to switch on their lens when they're talking about their issues. If there's attrition in China, or if there's a merger in China, okay, what questions do I have to ask my team to actually get to the root cause of it? They'll just come and say, okay, my team is unable to sell this product out in the field. It's so like raw, like you don't know what it means. So you would start asking the right questions, which an MBA will give you access to. This perspective, this diversity of thought is something that I picked up from my batchmates. I picked up from my professors, from uh, all areas of the corporate sector, and this is what I brought to my job here. And the best part is I can always go back to them. Like I said, I'm still evolving. There's a lot of issues that I had during the COVID situation, to be very honest. And if I were to understand how my uh, clients have to cater to the customers remotely, uh, I need to go back to people dealing with this kind of technology, right? And asking them that, okay, how does this technology work, and how can I translate it for my people who are remotely now catering to the customer, and what does the customer need to do to actually be able to absorb it optimally. So this journey and this switching on this perspective is something that not only those 10 months, everything that goes on before it, around it, after it, still going on, is very necessary for a HR professional.
So tell me one thing. A lot of people, a lot of Indian applicants go for. So there's a thing around that says that it's hard for, and I used to see it that way, that it's hard for internationals to find human resources jobs in other countries, right? You can
Yeah.
work in finance, you can help organizations redesign their balance sheets, raise capital, you can help companies streamline their operations. But when it comes to the cultural differences,
Yeah.
why an international company working in their organization would not be open to having somebody who's coming from a different culture to help them with team recruiting, resizing, restructuring?
Yeah.
How did you how did you bridge that gap? How easy was it? How tough was it? And I remember this was a conversation that you and I had as well
Yeah.
during the goals time.
Yes.
So tell us
Yes.
more about it. And I'm going to learn from this conversation now already.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay, so I want to share a few facts first, okay, about my cohort. So I had like 90 people in my class. Only two of us were from HR. The only two. And even throughout the MBA, I had questions from everybody, okay, not only back in India, where HR is also viewed in, that light, that probably is just a support function. But even during my MBA, I was asked questions like, why do you need to do an MBA to be in HR? Okay. And believe me, I have thought about it a lot during those 10 months and even after that. And I have an answer to it now and I use it. It's a funny statement, but I use it. It's like, we keep saying that HR needs a seat at the table. But the thing is, MBA is a way for HR to invite themselves to the table where the dinner is being served. You know, that's how I look at it. Because all this while, we say uh, culture eats strategy for a breakfast and all these kind of statements out there. But how does it really work? Is where HR comes in. See, I studied with people like you, finance, you have been learning all these very hardcore technology and techniques and blockchain and everything out there. But I was sitting in the class with you and observing when you were saying, okay, we need to do step A, B, C to actually launch a blockchain technology in this sector. But I actually was thinking like minus A, minus B, minus C. Okay, you need to do first these things before you're able to do A, B, C. So, that's how it worked for me. So I think that is very, very important. Now, coming to doing a regional role in Singapore, I think again the MBA helps a lot. We had like 25 nationalities in the class, right? And you are observing them all the time. That's how it works. Like for HR, you need to observe behaviors, personalities, how people are absorbing content. How are they reacting? And this is what I did all throughout, and that's how I am as a person as well. I'm very curious as to why a person behaves like this, and I was able to learn, pick up these skills during those 10 months. And one more thing, I was like impressed by one of the courses I had. It was cultural intelligence. I think it's being taught in a lot of MBA programs as well, but it's very interesting because we've talked about IQ, EQ, but this was CQ, and this was new to me, but it was very important because we were all put out in a room and asked to talk about stereotypes of Indians, of Chinese, of Germans, and we could, discuss and debate because it's all about, building empathy towards people and understanding how they are wired, and how we can do things differently, or how we can pick up best practices from things they do and actually work all together uh, in a happy world out there. So this is something that really helped me when I came to my regional role, because there are some things I know about these people already, culturally speaking, right? I cater to Southeast Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, I even cater to China and Hong Kong, which is very different. And then you have Japan, which is very, very culturally different as well. A good thing is that I have a network there now. So if I have a labor law issue in Japan, sometimes, there are some restrictions, when you're trying to implement something and it's far away and you've not worked in the country on ground. I just reach out to these people and I pick up the phone and like, just connect me to a specialist in labor law. I can connect with this week. And I really need to understand how to translate this so that we can build a policy for Japan specifically, because we need to cater to different countries differently. So yeah, this is a little bit about how you pick up, that cultural intelligence from a global MBA program, which helps you in a regional or a global role because you're working with all kinds of people next after your MBA.
I think you answered my next question as well. And I'm still going to morph it a little bit. But
Yeah.
before I get to that, can you tell me how was so you had a 10-month MBA, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You went to Singapore, you left your job here. You had an amazing job here. You left it, you went to Singapore.
mm-hmm.
How was the initial first 2, 3, 4 months? When did the recruiting start, Namini? How was the
Mm-hmm.
coursework? When did you start
Mm-hmm.
seeing the companies on campus? Did you have to
Yeah,
network a lot? How was
yeah,
job search in Singapore? And this is
sure.
for a lot of people who are 8, 9 years behind you right now. They'll get to see a lot from this.
Sure, sure, definitely. So I would actually like to say these are some of the things that I did, but there's also a lot of things I didn't do that I would have, I should have done. This is like me telling my older self, but I will try to include all of this, in my answer for this question. Uh, it's very rigorous, a 10-month program. I should say that. I think, yeah, sleepless nights. I'm sure, like most global MBA programs, students go through this. Uh, and first couple of weeks, of course, it's an emotional journey as well because you've moved away from family. It's completely new. You've never lived like this. You're a foreigner in a country. At least for me, it was the first time. Um, so yeah, just getting used to the way of living. There's a lot of assignments that are due even in week one. You've had your orientation. Along with that, there's a lot of coursework to finish, like pre-work that they call it. And then you reach on day one. I still remember 24th July. It all started. Um, and yeah, you have classes sometimes 5 6 days a week, a couple of classes in a week. You have submissions. um, they start case competitions from day one. If you're interested, you start preparing for it. um, and yeah, you start working with career services. So career services helps you, build your base in the sense that they have a format in place. of how to approach the job market. Okay, this is how the resume looks like. This is how your pitch should be. These are the first 10 people based on your experience that you should speak to, and they will also assign you, industry specialists or coaches. They always have these programs, uh, universities, where they will say, okay, based on experience, we have this senior HR lady who can help you. Just go for a coffee talk and then start your conversations from there. And it's so fast paced. That's how Singapore works, and a lot of globalized countries like Singapore work, that you have to catch hold of these people before they go to work, after they're coming back from work, back to their home. You have to catch hold of these people and have these coffee chats and start working on the base that the career services has built for you. Okay, you'll have a couple of target companies that you have in mind, but again, that's based on how you viewed things from India, right? Like, you have to evolve over time. So you have a base resume, a story, a pitch in place, and then you start meeting people and you start refining it. You start figuring it out how it makes sense. Because if you have those 10 companies, those top 10 tech brands, FMCG brands, that's good. That's a good list to have. But in Singapore, you have to understand it's a very small island. So the headcount of companies is very restricted. And the roles that you want, there are brilliant roles here, but they're low in number. So you have to have that premise in place before approaching the market. This is something I also learned a couple of months later. um, but 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 that's how it is. You take time. Like, different people have a different pace. But that's how it works. So what I started doing is, eventually, it took me a while, I started opening up my search options. So I was very restricted to, okay, I will go in these uh, top FMCG companies, sorry, because they have the best HR practices and policies and diversity and inclusion. And I really like the CHRO. I like what she says on LinkedIn, and think like those. But there's so much more to it. There's a huge startup industry in Singapore that's doing amazing work. HR tech is very huge here. So if you want to, go into HR analytics or building like HR tools, um, for example, like webinar management is a thing now with Zoom and all these things coming up during COVID. There is so much you can do, and there's so many companies like this looking for people like you. You have to start reading up, exploring, and talking to these people. And you have to find time doing that in between everything else that's going on. And and it is tiring, but that's how it is, and you start enjoying it because you are investing in your future and you're learning so much every day. Um, and that's how it is for me. You have to evolve. To be very honest, during my 10 months, I did not get a full-time offer. I only got it afterwards. So even after that, I had to do an internship. But by that time, I had built a network of these people that are new in HR. And because now I was narrowing down to, okay, this is the kind of strategic role I can do after MBA. Because a business partner role, I realized, allows you to work very closely with business, and you get to think like that. Whereas a lot of HR other roles can be quite operational in nature. So you have to find what works for you and where you can utilize whatever you've learned in the last 1 year. um, so yeah, that's how my job looked like. There were challenges. Like I said, it's an emotional journey, so you have to manage that part as well and remain resilient. That you there is light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, just the fact, a lot of 50% of the MBA students got a job actually 6 months after the end of the program.
Wow.
So it's not during the program. And that's how the Singapore market, the cycle is also different, right? Because consulting companies hire during October. A lot of other companies start hiring next year in March after the financial cycle. So you have to wait for that cycle and get hold of those opportunities.
How does the cycle look like for internationals, Damini, in terms of visa? Like, for how long are you allowed to stay? Is there a clock
Yeah,
ticking where you really, really have to find a job in order to not
yeah,
be thrown out of the country? How does that work?
sure, sure. so for Singapore, for NTU specifically, because I know NUS and INSEAD works differently. INSEAD has two intakes. NUS has a longer 16-month program, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So for NTU, like we come in July, and the program is until like for 10 months. So by May, your classes are mostly over.
Okay.
But after that, if you don't have a job, if you have a job, your company will sponsor you when they apply for a employment pass. It's called an EP,
Okay.
and you get it within a couple of weeks. Again, it's a little tricky. If they want to hire a foreigner, they will have to justify that there was no local candidate that was fit for this role, and which is okay. A lot of countries do that and are doing that increasingly so that they can protect their own citizens in the job market. So that is the tricky part. But MBA students, I think, do not have a problem 98% of the time, because we are still categorized in like highly skilled workers. So that's for people who've already got job offers, say between Jan to May. If after that you want to remain in the country, you can look for an internship and remain on your student pass until Jan next year. So you have another like 8 months. And in that, like you can do a full-time internship, 5 days a week, and you can remain on your student pass. Some people also did like 2 or 3 internships. Some did like 6 months of internship. Depends, if they wanted to stay in the country. But even after that, if you don't have an internship, you can apply for a long-term pass, because as a student or as an ex-employee in the country, you're allowed, you can apply for a long-term visa and stay in the country for 1 more year. So they do give you that 1 year to look for jobs if you want to. Yeah.
So it's not. So it's a very cooperative ecosystem
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think
Definitely.
6 months plus an additional 1 year, 1.5 years should be sufficient to find 5 jobs.
Yes.
I don't.
Yes. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And to get a hold of this market and to understand, I think generally any new market you enter, you 8 to 10 months you need, like you need to spend, looking for those kind of roles. And that's the period they give you. So I think it's fair. Yeah.
What suggestions do you have, not just for HR human resource leaders, no, but generally for applicants who are applying from here, thinking of Singapore, thinking of
Mm-hmm.
NTU, NUS, or Singapore campus of INSEAD, right?
Mm-hmm.
What should they keep in mind? Any suggestions for people who are currently taking GMAT and thinking of going to Singapore?
Okay.
Goods and bads, if anything that comes to your mind. Anything that
Definitely.
doesn't land you in trouble.
No. I think Singapore is definitely a relatively cheaper option for a global MBA, I would say. I think that was one of the factors, that I considered to make this decision. Um, Also, I was not in a wavelength to go to US or Canada, 4 years like ago, but probably I can consider it now. But given everything else that's going on, it may not work out. Um, but yeah, I think budget is something that people like should consider if this is one of the factors. Secondly, definitely it's closer to home. It works for a lot of people. I've seen that, and I'm saying this for a lot of my classmates from India, who wanted to stay closer to family for a number of reasons that they had. And it's just like you can take a class in the morning, or you have a meeting at 4 p.m. in the evening. You can still reach India, like Delhi, by 11 p.m. in the night. So it works for people who want to be closer to family. Um, I think Singapore as a country is very, very diverse. I am enjoying living here and working here. Um, it is a melting pot, even though the government, says no, it's culturism. They like to preserve each culture, and you see that uh, in terms of, the festivals and the public holidays we have, they cater to each of the community that lives here. I think I've celebrated all kinds of festivals from across the world in the last couple of years that I was unaware of, because that's how it is. That's how the program is. That's how the country is. It's very rare that you feel like a foreigner. It's very inclusive in that sense. Um, uh, Another very, very interesting point, it's not interesting, it's a well-known point. It's You have a lot of very good roles. I think it's very strategically placed in the continent. It's a financial hub. So based on that, you get to do a lot of regional roles, which is very different from India. I know India, a lot of regional roles are based out of India as well, but more often than not, in Singapore, you have people managing Southeast Asia. People managing probably the territories of Japan and Korea, or like roles like mine. I have a lot of classmates that are in Asia Pacific roles, which is very different from many other countries that may not allow you or give that opportunity at this stage at least, uh, to do that kind of roles. Um,
Wow, that's something that's a very, very strong point. Can you elaborate a little more? Like if somebody graduates from here, from ISB,
yeah.
or like from an American program versus somebody
Mhm.
graduating from Singapore, what do you mean when
Yeah.
you say regional role?
Okay. So going back to the point where I said, right, it's a small island, but then it's placed very strategically. So what tends to happen is, you have certain roles here that are actually catering to Malaysia, Thailand, all these countries that are upcoming now, and you get to do go to market strategy, for all these countries. You're setting up operations, but you're still based out of here. Probably it's the regional headquarters, so it's easier for industry people to just fly in and out. That's how the country works. Our airports are always full all the time. Uh, but that's how it is. So you get to do very good work. You get to launch a lot of things, sitting from here, for a lot of other countries that are upcoming in Asia. So I think from that perspective, just understanding how Asia works was also very new to me. I think in India, a lot of at least my education was focused on Western
Yeah.
history, or how Western countries are coming up and all those kind of things. But this was very different. So I think in that case, I really like the nature of roles that are offered in Singapore, um, and are still being offered. So actually, that's not something that's completely gone on hold. I know we have contracted as an economy during COVID, uh, but there's a lot of roles that are still we are hiring for, and I can see that our workforce pipeline is opening up towards the end of the year. Yeah.
Last question for you. In the beginning of the conversation, you brought up something like there are a lot of things you did really well and a lot of things you could have done. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what suggestions and across two different categories? One is, what do you think should people do right after they have an admit from the time of joining?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things they
Mm-hmm.
can do to smoothen the transitioning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, during the time when people go for 1 year MBA programs like NTU, NCR, Richard Ivy, Cornell
Mm-hmm.
1 year MBA, you have
Yeah.
just a year to be up and running. What
Mm-hmm.
suggestions do you have for people in that category? One is before MBA, what to do, and during MBA, what
Mm-hmm.
are some of the suggestions for this category of people?
Sure. Definitely. And I think the second question is linked to the first question. Given that it's a shorter program, 1 year program, you have to do some pre-work before you come, uh, and start your program. And that is something I could have also done better. Is you start networking before you come in, and you obviously start networking even when you're applying. But once you get through, and I did this, but not as much. You start reaching out to, especially the batch that's currently in doing that full-time program. Why? Because they are like living through it right now. It's very fresh to them, and they can give you like immediate, quick solutions that they did not adapt to, 10 months ago. That you can actually start working on, say, a couple of months in advance. So say if the program is starting in July, probably in March, like once you know and you've made the deposit and everything, just start like having very like just write to people on LinkedIn. You can connect with your career services. A lot of people did not connect with them uh, before they came in person. They will reach out to you.
So from India, you can start reaching out to career services ahead of time.
Definitely. I think they're very super helpful. They will give you contacts. You reach out to professors. Your seniors would be able to tell you, okay, this is the right person to go to for you, given your experience. Just start writing to them. They'll be very nice. They'll have coffee chats with you. You know, whenever they're free in between classes, is this okay? Let's just, um, you know, just have like a call, video call, and let's discuss. And they've already interviewed you, so probably they remember you from a couple of months ago. But they will start, building that story with you before you come in. So you've already a couple of steps ahead when you actually go meet them in person once you land in the country. And even when you land in the country, do not wait for like them to come to you or approach you. You can always, walk up to wherever your professors sit, your career services sit, start building that rapport, start sharing what you like about or what you don't like. We can do things differently. They're always open to inputs. Like the good part about MBA is like we do come with, some experience, and that's how we lead the program. Every cohort is different based on the students that are coming in, and they're the ones who create that experience for themselves. So, from the get going, just start discussing with classmates. Oh, this is what we need. This is something they did not do last year. This is the feedback the students are sharing. Okay, let's do it differently this time. And that's what you have to do here. Do the base work before you come in. So I think networking with something like I learned from you even before starting this is key to all of this. And of course you can end up reading, how the job market looks like, how is HR in Singapore. There's a lot of lean-in circles here that I'm part of now, but I realized that I could have spoken to these ladies, like women in HR. We have this huge circle here. Even before coming in, they're very friendly. They're probably a couple of years older than you, or much older than you,
Your
with a
voice
very
has suddenly lowered down. I don't know. Something
oh, I'm sorry.
suddenly just.
Is it okay?
No, I
No.
think the voice has gone down.
Is it okay now? No.
Yeah, maybe try.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, sure. So yeah, this was, one of the things, all these networks that are very focused on what you want to do. You can actually connect with these ladies before coming in. And I've actually realized a lot of people now have started doing that. If not students, there are people based out of India who want to move in HR roles to Singapore. And they reach out to you and they add you to add to the circles. And we are doing everything remotely, right? So they join the Zoom calls that we have every month. And we discuss everything that's going on during the pandemic and how like different companies are managing it differently. So yeah, these are, I think, some of the tips. Um, Again, linked to the second question, because we have a very short program, you need to have done that groundwork before you come in. Yeah.
See, so it's so amazing to see that you've grown so much right now. I can sense it. I can sense it because I've seen the Damini 3 years ago, Damini or 4 years ago versus what you are
Yeah.
now, and the kind of
Yeah.
impact that you're creating, Damini. I think you and I spoke for 2 consecutive years. First was the year when you said, "I'm not sure, should I do
Yeah.
this?" And then I said, I think the conversation led to you deciding that, you know what, let me not look at international MBA this year. So did you come back within the same year or did you come back the next year? I don't remember. You and I had
No,
a
I think I came back in a couple of months. I took some time. I went back to work. I also, had to go back and see how I was doing at work. But I was, I knew I could do much more. Uh, and the managers that I had there actually told me so, and I'm in contact with them. They are very senior in their HR roles now, right? And they are the ones who reach out to me and ask me that, okay, tell me what's going on in Singapore. What can we adapt of what, Singapore is doing in India so that we all move forward. So yeah, I think it took me like, it's a self-awareness journey as well. Jatin, I think you'll agree. Like you learn
100%.
so much.
100%.
I'm still learning the way I've managed the pandemic. I've learned so much. I've never done this before. I think my career of 2 years in Singapore, the last 3 months have been the steepest learning curve for me. So yeah, but
I
but
agree.
it's been great.
When I went to Darden, that was my uh, trip to a country outside India for the first time.
Yeah,
And uh, in Darden, we had a month called Black November, where the weather is really crazy. Then you have the casework, the casework, the machinery is running full velocity. You have to do 3 case days. Then you have recruiting, networking, everything is at peak. And I remember walking back from the school when I would call my cousins late at night, walking back from the learning team meetings, and I'll just at times call my cousins in India and
yeah,
hear them partying here. And I used to think, what have I done to myself? I was
yeah,
doing fine in India. Why did I ever? But that was the time when I had, just as you said, you experienced a great learning curve only by going out to an environment that you were really not comfortable in.
mhm, yeah, yeah, yeah. But the best part of it is, and I would like to share this as part of our discussion. You need to build sort of your corner in that entire thing because there's a lot of noise. Everything is going, you know, uh, at the same time. But what I did differently, and I wrote about this in my essay, and I spoke about it in my interviews, and I ended up doing it, and I'm very, very proud of it. I opened a yoga and mental health club,
Wow.
and nobody had done that in the business school before. And I told myself, okay, we will all go through this, rigorous curriculum, all like 6 days a week. Sunday, I'm going to have a free class. I found this superb corner. The campus is huge, NTU, like it's unending. I don't think I've seen the whole of it yet. But I found this corner and I said I will have classes and used to host like 10 to 20 people every week and have that class and discuss about all anxieties, fear and panic because that was one constant thing throughout. And I was so proud that I was able to fulfill it. And there is something that I really want to do. So even through something that, that is defined for you, you can create your own thing within that thing. And a lot of people ended up doing that successfully and came out like with flying colors. That was my proudest moment. People ask me a lot of things about my MBA, but that was my proudest moment from my MBA.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really, really. And I think you did have something like that in your stories as well, as you said, remember?
yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah,
ended up doing it. I don't think I don't think a lot of, to be very honest, very, very brutal, not a lot of applicants that I've worked with, we make a lot of promises in terms of the thing that we want to do,
yeah,
contribute to the school.
yeah.
I don't think a lot of people do it. That's okay. It's not a promissory note, but proud of you, Damini.
No, thank you so much, Jatin.
Thank you so much for joining us. And you don't know, a lot of people will get value from you, from this conversation. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us.